Am I the a-hole for not giving a kidney to my father? My 23 female, father 71 male, he has a chronic kidney disease and needs a kidney transplant to survive. He has 3 older kids, I have siblings, but none of them are compatible. They have the same blood type but haven't tested for compatibility yet. His blood type, coupled with comorbidities, fatty liver from alcohol consumption, make him an unlikely donor recipient in my country. We met this year, but my mom told me he was dead when I was a child because he didn't want to be in my life. She told me the truth when I was 18, and I found out he was still alive, had other kids, and where he lived. After pondering, I decided not to contact him. He always lived in the same city and house growing up, so he knew where to find me and never tried. His name is not on my birth certificate. My mom's brother-in-law has been my dad for everything that counts. A few years ago, I met my father's nephew, his wife's nephew, 28 male, Max. We became friends without knowing about the link and eventually started dating. Been together for 2 years. When we found out about the link, I told him I didn't want my dad knowing about me and he respected my decision. They are fairly close because Max's dad died when he was 18, and my father became his main male role model. I got pretty sick a few months ago and had to be hospitalized for 3 weeks. My father heard that Max's girlfriend, me, was very sick for my half-sister. She used the word dying, so he went to offer support. Figured who I was. He didn't know my name, plus I'm a copy of my mom. And lost it. He insulted me and my boyfriend, called me a gold digger and him an idiot for thinking I got close to him without knowing who he was. Up to this point, I didn't even know they were rich. I knew they were well off, but Max works very hard and never talks about money. We don't live together, and both lived abroad before the pandemic. I recently graduated uni, studied with a full scholarship abroad, worked and saved enough to pay for my master's. Even then, my mom's legacy is substantial, so I'm not worried at all for my future financially. Max eventually forgave him, and trusts I am not with him due to money. My father asked for forgiveness, and I told him I was willing to be cordial with him for Max's sake, but that I would never see him as a dad figure and I wanted nothing from him. Today, he talked to Max, said his kidneys were failing and he would be hospitalized until a kidney becomes available. Max has asked me to test for compatibility before making a decision. I told him that it wasn't necessary because I'm not giving away a kidney. He got angry and said that this was a life or death situation and that I could at least think about it. I am extremely distressed that he would even ask that of me and told him to buzz off. I know people can live with 1 kidney, but every surgery comes with risks, and pregnancy does become higher risk. Am I the a-hole for not giving an organ to someone that's contributed nothing but a sperm to my life? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. But if you want to escape the pressure, say you will get tested and tell the doctor that you're being pressured and you don't want to donate. The doctor will then tell them you're not compatible. Oh, really? I didn't know you could do that. Thank you. I don't want to lie to Max, and kind of understand where he's coming from now that I've cooled off. This may be a good option so my half-siblings don't come after me too. Well, it's like that in the US. Tell them you are being pressured, / forced to be here, / give up your kidney and they will say you tested negative for a match. Not stay home. And don't do the test. Nothing good can come of it if you're set on not donating. But, honestly, you and your boyfriend aren't set up for success here. There is so much baggage between you two. To be honest, some therapy would be really recommended, now rather than later. I wanted to break things off when we found out the link, but he seemed serious about being able to separate what my father was for him and what he had with me, and promised never to push me to start a relationship with him. That's why I'm so hurt right now. You're right, therapy might be needed if we want to keep going forward. Not today home. Max's reaction is a red flag. He is losing a parent figure, so I'm open to forgive his behavior if he's open to hear and understand my point of view. He's been wonderful for 3 years, and we've never had big arguments before this. Next story. Am I the a-hole for calling my husband delusional for demanding I give him 50% profit of my business that he didn't support? My husband, male 35, is a bank clerk, and I, female 29, have a work-from-home job, which I barely bear since I'm an active outdoor person and like doing gardening stuff in particular. I figured, since I have background in gardening, I decided to use our spacious backyard to grow flowers and sell them online after arranging and organizing them into bouquets. When I brought this up with my husband, he said this was the worst idea ever, adding that this would be a major waste of time and money, and suggested I look for a second job. I didn't listen and started my business little by little. In a matter of 18 months, it started bringing decent money and I gained customers. My husband offered to look at how much I was able to make in the past months and was impressed. The other day, he was standing with his drink while I was checking my flowers, and he talked about what a good job I was doing keeping our business flowing. I corrected him about it being our business and reminded him about how little faith he had in my potential to make decent money out of growing and selling cut flowers. He was like, well, I didn't honestly think your little gardening hobby was going to get anywhere, but now that the business is flourishing, I want my fair share of the profit and won't settle for less than 50%. I was puzzled, and I asked why he thought he should get any share of the profit, let alone 50%. His answer was that I was using his soil to grow my flowers on. I said this is our house / our soil, not just his since we're married, and both our names are on the title. He was like, actually, I owned this house long before you came along, so it's technically mine. I replied that he must be aware it'll be split in half in case of separation. He laughed and joked about how silly I was for hinting separation, just because he was asking for something that he so richly deserves, which is 50% of the profit. I said no, and that it was delusional to ask because his soil alone doesn't magically grow my flowers. There's a lot of work to it, from picking, buying seeds, taking time, effort to care for them, collecting, trimming, and selling them while all he does is sit back. I said it didn't matter to him when I started using his soil, so why now? He said it always matters when money's involved. We had an argument about it, and he apologized, but only for approaching the subject rudely but still wants 50%. He's been silent about it since after stating that he already said what he needed to say, and I needed to make the right decision. Am I the a-hole? To clarify, my husband and I both have our own salaries. We contribute equally towards expenses. It's his idea since he had a divorce before. He still has things that he owns alone, which isn't bad since money has never been an issue. It's not like he needs money for an emergency or something. He just wants 50% of profits going forward. Not stay home, and I really hope you're consulting a divorce lawyer. Your husband just showed his true colors, and the picture isn't pretty at all. Leave his sorry butt to rot on his soil, and plant a new garden somewhere else without an entitled burden. Then he has to pay 50% of your overhead. That includes your salary, which you should now include for maintaining the business. Make him pay you to get his half. Not stay home, but you need to visit a lawyer ASAP to get your business registered in just your name and to look into a post-nup. You need to protect yourself here. If you live in a community property state, half the business is his, since she started the business after their marriage. Not stay home, your husband is. Is he giving you 50% of his wages? This is insane and a huge red flag. I think that idea of separation should be considered seriously. First, protect your business by filing for an LLC if you have it already. Then take the house or the land and make him buy you out. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for wanting to sue my husband's sister for losing my 2K camera at the beach? My 26 female sister-in-law, 20 female, moved in with me and my husband weeks ago because of problems with her boyfriend. She isn't planning on going back till he apologizes, even though she broke his Xbox device in an argument. I'm a blogger. I have a small space in our apartment, sort of like my office but very small, where I work for hours. Sister-in-law always enters the room and takes stuff and not return them, resulting in me replacing them till it got a lock. She was going to the beach with some friends to let off some steam and asked if she could borrow my 2000 video camera to record the trip. But I declined and explained that I was working in the weekend and would need it. I got done with my project and left my camera at the desk. But when I woke up the next day at 9 a.m. and had a shower then breakfast, I entered my office and didn't find my camera. I freaked out, and my husband told me to calm down because his sister took it with her to the beach. He assured me it was in safe hands, but I kept worrying about it and was upset by the fact she took it and he gave her the key. She got back at 7 p.m. and was pissed, talking about getting in a fight with her boyfriend after seeing him with someone at the beach, and it ruined her day. She started crying loudly and cussing him out. I asked for my camera back and she said she didn't have it. She left angry after the encounter and forgot her sunglasses, cream hat, and my camera at the beach. Her friend Aiden picked some of the stuff and brought it back, but the camera apparently got stolen. I started yelling, calling her irresponsible and reckless, and this was 2K camera she left behind. She started apologizing, then tried to blame it on her now ex-boyfriend for getting her into a fight with the girl he was with. I said I need a camera for my work, and she had to replace it like yesterday. My husband got involved and said it wasn't her fault it got stolen, and suggested I get a cheaper camera from Amazon for now till I can afford to buy a new one. I said, what? Why should I buy a replacement when it was his sister who lost it? She took it without permission and was responsible for whatever happened afterwards. I tried to make excuses for her being an emotional mess, but I said I have no problem suing her. He asked if I was serious, and I said yes because I've worked hard to get this camera, and my work's always been known to be of high quality. So for him to suggest a cheap camera from Amazon was offensive. He said he was just trying to help fix the problem, but I said he was just helping his sister avoid responsibility. Both him and his sister aren't speaking to me anymore so suddenly, claiming they've given me time to calm down, where in fact they're cold-shouldering me, making me feel guilty for saying that. I'm not sure if doing this will be morally the right thing, since she's family as my husband says. Am I the a-hole? Edit. Someone here mentioned a possibility for friend Aiden taking it, which is a possibility, but when I requested to speak to him about what happened, my sister-in-law said I was wrong to hint that he took the camera, even though I just wanted to ask him a few questions. She told me to leave him out of it since she trusts him with her stuff. Not stay home. Sue her. File first thing Tuesday morning. If your husband isn't on board, tell him that he and his sister need to go until they're ready to apologize and make things right. If necessary, file a police report since she stole your camera by taking it without permission. She asked if she could borrow the camera and you told her no, and she did it anyway. Your husband enabled this violation of your boundaries by sister and then tried to invalidate your feelings on it. I think you are well within your rights to demand that she leave immediately and say that she's no longer welcome in your house. It's probably also time to tell your husband that the two of you need counseling, and if he doesn't agree to go, then you should consult a divorce attorney. Unfortunately, I don't know if a court would see it as taking it without permission if her husband had locked the room specifically to allow her to get the camera. Depending on how property is viewed in their jurisdiction, it may be considered equally his. She still has a moral obligation to replace it with one of equivalent quality, a model still available. Do you have household contents insurance that covers loss or accidental damage? Get her to pay the excess, and your husband pay any difference in premiums for the next 5 years. Not stay home. First, you need to file a report with the police. Then inform your sister-in-law and your partner that if they don't apply a small loan and replace your camera and lens, then a lawsuit will be filed in 14 working days. Put the both of them in their place so that they never disrespect your property again. P.S. I would love an update on the final outcome. Thing is, my husband thinks it's always wrong to get the law involved in family matters. I admit that my family are the type to take things to court which may not apply to every family, but I think she should be the one replacing it, not me. Not stay home. But there is a bigger issue here. Much bigger. Your husband does not respect you and is willing to let his sister step all over you and your career. That is wrong. His sister is an adult, but it sounds like she acts like a 12-year-old. Seems like she's not used to being held accountable by anyone. You're not the a-hole for holding her accountable, and you deserve to have that camera replaced free of charge to you. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for proposing to girlfriend with a plastic ring as a joke? So, context. I'm 35 male and girlfriend is 30 female. We have been together for 5 years. She has made it known for the past at least 3 years that she wants to get married. I always tell her to wait and see. It'll happen one day. Last night I was out with a few buddies and got a little tipsy. While I was out, we went to arcade machines for fun and I won a stupid plastic ring. In my tipsy state, I was like, aha, you know what would be a great idea? If I pretended to propose to girlfriend with us. Cue buddies laughing and agreeing. I got home after midnight and woke my girlfriend up. Shameful in itself, I know, and told her to get out of bed quick in an urgent tone. She was worried and asking, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" I told her to sit on the edge of the bed. I then went down on one knee and presented her with a crappy ring and asked, "Will you marry me?" And then burst out laughing. I didn't quite get the reception I expected. She asked me angrily if I was for real and threw a pillow at me. She went into the bathroom, and when I followed her in, she was crying. I was still tipsy and couldn't stop laughing. Bad, I know. She was crying and saying, "I can't believe you find this funny. You know how much it means to me to get married? You take that special moment away by getting on your knee as a joke." I stupidly asked her how does she know it's a joke. She said, "It better be with that ring." I told her she's right that it's a joke, but she's way over the top right now. And then get into bed and sleep. Today has been her crying off and on about me making a mockery of her and our relationship. I've said I'm sorry until I'm blue in the face. But a big part of me thinks she's also overreacting, and it's childish. The ironic thing is, I do plan to propose to her for real soon. Damn, I feel like this is something she needs to get over. Or am I just an A? You're the a-hole. Really bad move. Messing with her emotions and honestly wasting her time. Although after this long, she's letting her time get wasted. I mean, he's been dangling it over her head for years according to him. When someone you love tells you what you want to hear, you tend to listen. This guy has been telling her that she needs to wait because it will happen someday, and she has believed him. You're the a-hole. For real? You better hope she doesn't leave you before you propose. She's not overreacting. You made a joke out of her feelings. She's probably crying because she knows what she has to do now. I know if I were her, I'd definitely reconsider wanting to marry this person. I didn't even want to get married. I was legit surprised when my husband proposed. And yet, if he had made a joke of it and acted like spending his life with me was a hilarious prank, I'd be out of there the next day. Like it's one crappy thing to not marry a person to whom you know it is important, assuming you want to commit to them. It is downright abusive to taunt them with it and mock them for believing you would do it. And that's before you woke her up, laughed in her face, and dismissed her feelings about it. You're the a-hole. Are you and your buddies really mid-30s? This seems astonishingly adolescent. Anything that strikes as a great idea while you're drunk probably isn't. Let this be a lesson to you. And he thinks she is the one being childish. Am I the a-hole for making my dad look bad on a post he made about my late brother? I don't know why I, 21 male, even have to ask, but it's super confusing how some people are reacting to what I did. Not over the top, but still think I was out of line. It happened a while back, by the way. My brother 14 passed away 3 months ago. He had leukemia, getting treatment for it for years. It still hurts, and I'm still not in a good place, so that's why I don't know if my reaction to my dad was really that bad. I feel like that's not even close to what he deserves. He basically deserted us when my brother was 8 and I was 15. It hurt my brother a lot, but my dad made promises to come pick us up or visit. None of that actually happened. Then it got to where there was only a phone call maybe once every few months. A year after he left, he didn't even want custody of us when my mom passed, so he ended up with my mom's parents. For all that crap, I was already done with him. But when my brother got sick, he wanted my dad around, so we communicated. My dad only came to see him once. In the 2 years my brother was sick, my dad only came to see him once. Not even when we knew we had to say goodbye and my brother was asking for my dad. He didn't want to go, because it would be too hard. I agree, but tough luck. It hurt me seeing my brother like that too. Then he wasn't at the funeral either. Reason why they think I'm the a-hole. My dad posted about my brother on his Facebook. It was a picture of my brother that caught me off guard when I was scrolling. And my dad was saying he misses him and couldn't even attend his own son's funeral because supposedly he wasn't told. It made me so mad I left a long comment on his post. Not calling him any stuff, but saying that nobody stopped him from going to his own kid's funeral, and pointed that he knew about it because he left me on read when I sent him the info. No one stopped him from going to see my brother when he was dying asking where he is because we all told him. And also that nobody stopped him from being a freaking dad when he walked out on his kids. It was kinda cathartic, not gonna lie, but everything I said was the truth. It just made me angry the way he was talking like he wasn't given a chance to say goodbye. My dad messaged me privately. Mad because I'm talking crap to him when he only wanted somewhere to vent, and you don't need to be told he's a horrible dad. My grandma agrees with him and that I should apologize because my dad is a parent grieving the loss of his kid. My grandpa at least is on my side, but I've gotten comments from that post that I should be ashamed of myself. That my dad wasn't a good dad but he feels guilty for that, so I shouldn't add more to it. Again, I don't know why it's so wrong to say that. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not a-hole. Your dad used your brother for attention on social media and tried to play the victim role of a father that isn't even told when his child dies, which he was from what I could read. Just for some clicks and some comments, your father used your brother that he almost was completely no contact with. Your brother must be worth nothing more than a few clicks to your father. Not today, home. I'm so sorry for your losses. Your dad should not have the privilege of calling himself a parent when he did not put in any of the work. I'm gonna say not today, home, but I'm all about calling out people's BS on social media. I hate fakers and liars. And your dad is lying and trying to get sympathy where he deserves none. He sounds narcissistic and selfish, and I'd consider going no contact. Shouldn't it be that hard, considering he's basically been no contact by choice this whole time? We haven't been in contact anyways. Only reason we talked was because my brother was sick. Your dad used your brother for clout. He wants sympathy and attention. There's nothing wrong with what you did. For Pete's sake, he couldn't even grant your brother a last wish of saying goodbye. He left you both long ago. It's best to honestly cut him out of your life now. You don't need such a selfish person in your life. I'm so goddamn sorry for the loss of your little brother. I hope you seek therapy or ways to help you grieve. Take all the time you need. Heck, take a day and go get your brother's favorite ice cream. Make yourself a scrapbook. Your brother loved you, and he was so lucky to have you by his side always. Not today, Hole. Funny you mentioned favorite ice cream. He actually loved frozen yogurt. Went to a place we used to go all the time, but it made me sick, so didn't even get to stay. I don't know. I can't eat stuff we both liked. My grandma says that's part of the process. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not wanting to interact with my biological father but still expecting him to pay child support? I, 18 female, was raised by a single mom. My parents divorced when I was just 2 months old and my mom got full custody of me, so I never met my father. All I've ever really known about him is his name and the amount of child support money transferred into my bank account each month. Now, in my country, a non-custodial parent is obligated to pay child support up until their child turns 18. But this can be extended for a few more years on the condition that said child decides to pursue a higher education and go to university. So as you can already guess, as soon as I turned 18, my father stopped paying child support. But when I graduated high school and got accepted into a university, I decided to use this extended child support law to my advantage and took him to court. Me and my mom weren't doing all that well financially and thought the extra money would definitely come in handy. The case took quite a few months to get resolved, and the courtroom was the first and last place where I saw my father in person. His reasoning for not wanting to continue paying child support after I turned 18 was that I didn't want to have any sort of relationship with him, so he didn't want to send money to a complete stranger each month anymore. He told the judge he'd agreed to continue paying child support on the condition that I agreed to get to know him and talk to him on a regular basis, but I declined. I mean, even if biologically he's my father, this man is nothing more than a stranger to me. I have no real interest in getting to know him, and I never did. Wanting to have a relationship with him would be like wanting to have a relationship with the sperm donor who conceived you. I ended up winning the case, because the law is very clear on the fact that he has to pay child support for as long as I'm in university, regardless of whether I want to actually interact with him or not. Now he has to pay child support every month up until I graduate from university. We ended up getting in a huge argument as soon as the last court hearing was over, and he was really upset because I didn't even want to talk to him for a while and give him a chance, but still wanted to prey on his money. So from a legal point of view, I'm in the right. But am I in the right from a moral point of view too? Am I an a-hole? I should also add that my father never made any attempts to pursue a relationship with me while I was growing up, and neither did I. My mom never actively tried to get me to meet him, but at the same time she made it clear that she was always open to talk if I wanted to know more about him, and ready to answer any questions that I might have had. Except that, well, I never really had any questions to ask her and was never really interested in him. She also never badmouthed my father and never tried to stop us from meeting each other, but neither of us ever made any sort of attempt to do so. I don't think he's a bad man, but I don't think he's a good man either. He is just a stranger who didn't want to be involved in my life, so I don't want to be involved in his life either. I don't resent him. I have no reason to. It's just plain old disinterest both on my part and his. Not today, home. You didn't ask to be born, and you certainly didn't ask to have an absent father. You're the kid here. He has obligations. You do not. Good luck with school. But she's asking about the morality, not the legality. And morally, she's the a-hole. Not today, home. Law is clear. He had 18 years to build a relationship and declined. I am sure you could have tried to build a relationship over those 18 years. Applied for visitation. Opie, have you investigated to see if he tried to see you but was blocked by your mother? Make sure there isn't information on this being hidden from you. Also, why are you so sure you would have refused to see him as a child? Did your mother heavily influence him against you? My mom was always open with me while I was growing up and never tried to block him from trying to contact me. This was even confirmed by my father himself. He was just never interested in getting to know me up until now, and I wasn't interested in getting to know him either. Why am I so sure I would have refused to see him as a kid? I mean, I was perfectly happy with the family he had, which was made up of my mom and some other relatives, so I just had no interest in knowing more about my father. I didn't resent him or anything because I wouldn't have had a reason to. It was just plain old disinterest, both on my part and on his part. I've seen some men do this before. They don't want anything to do with the child, but once the child is grown, they want to connect and play the role of dad to someone that doesn't want or need it any longer. No, you're not an a-hole. He had his chance to connect with you. You're right. He's essentially a stranger to you. Next story. Am I the a-hole for going to college out of state without my stepfather's permission? My stepfather and I have never had a very good relationship. We can't seem to agree in much of anything, but I am very non-confrontational and try my best to make him proud to avoid arguments. The one topic that I have never been willing to compromise on is college. I began talking about college during my freshman year of high school, and from the get-go, the topic was unwelcomed. It angered him that I wanted to talk about college, and the excuses never stopped. I don't have enough confidence in you yet, you're not ready yet, you're in too much of a rush to leave me, etc. I felt unsupported, and because of that, I decided that I wouldn't bring up college anymore. Fast forward to 2020 to 2021, I've graduated salutatorian of my class, got accepted into 13 out of 14 schools applied to, and won 12 scholarships on top of a full ride. Throughout the entirety of my senior year, talking about college was such a hassle, as I always felt unsupported in my academic endeavors. So I made a decision to attend college on my own. I picked a school out of state that offered me a full ride scholarship, and I broke the news to my stepfather. At this time, my mom already knew, as she was the one who helped me narrow down schools and make the decision. He didn't take the news well, and since May when I told him, every day there has been another argument. I've now been told that I am the worst thing that could happen to a man like him, and that because I've decided to go to school without his permission, I am doomed to be a lesson for my younger siblings about what happens when you don't work together. He has even blamed his relationship issues with my mom on me and my decision to go to college. I feel terrible about it, but I know that it was the only way I could attend school, since no matter what, he would have never supported me. I've tried telling him that I feel this way, but he never seems to listen. Instead, I get the guilt trips off, I guess I love you more than you love me, and why are you in such a rush to leave like I'm a bad guy? I just kind of wish he would be proud of my accomplishments and wants me to care about my future as much as I do. He says that me going to school is an adult decision that I shouldn't have made alone because it impacts my family. Yet, they aren't paying a dime. In fact, my stepfather says that it is wrong of me to leave only because I would leave more stress on my family because I wouldn't be home to cook, do laundry, and watch my siblings. Am I the a-hole for deciding to go to school out of state without his permission? I love my family dearly, and it hurts to go so far away from them. But I was given an opportunity that doesn't come often. Now for the comments. I'd call your stepfather a prick, but that would imply he has a use and is capable of providing pleasure. You are not the a-hole here. Go build a life. And when your mother wises up and ditches this waste of proteins, be supportive. May or may not be a prick, but he is most certainly a narcissist. Good on Opie for getting out. Not the a-hole. You're an adult. You don't need anyone's permission. Also, what the hell is with his constant woe is me diatribes? I'm a dad, and I have zero understanding of his arguments. How is this having a single impact on him as a person? As a parent, I could understand missing your kids, them being so far away and being worried. But what he said? No clue. He is deranged. Not the a-hole. Your stepfather, however, is a massive a-hole. I would consider limiting your future contact with him, as the emotional manipulation from him, I guess I love you more than you love me, and why are you in such a rush to leave like I'm a bad guy, is very concerning. Get out, Opie. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for asking for the full inheritance instead of splitting it with my sister? I'm 28 female and she's 32 female. Don't know if that matters. Recently, our father passed away. He didn't really leave any money, but he has a partially paid for condo which I desperately wanted to live in. It's nothing fancy, just a small 650 square foot 2-bedroom place. It's cozy, and I've been struggling with homelessness since my husband and I split. Rents have drastically increased. I'm talking over doubled since I was on my own last, and I can't afford anything. The cheapest 1-bedrooms are $1,800 a month and bachelors around $1,500, while after taxes I make just under $2,000. I want to assume my dad's mortgage, which is right around $600 every month. So I asked my sister, pled my case, and she didn't take it so well. She's not hurting for money, owns multiple properties all over the world. I even said that if we can make it, that if anything were to happen to me, she could still get half. I don't want my half to go to my son, which is also the reason I don't want to move somewhere cheaper. My ex-husband lets me visit outside their place whenever I want, but if I had my own place with a suitable bedroom for our son, we'd be splitting costly 50-50. Anyways, sister and her husband have sent me a barrage of angry texts calling me a greedy a-hole. Curious about Reddit's opinion? Please be gentle. Now for the comments before the little update. Gentle, you're the a-hole. Need really has nothing to do with it. You aren't entitled to it more than your sister is. This. Without much of a backstory, it's hard to make a huge judgment. But your sister being more successful than you doesn't mean she has to pick up the pieces. Why can't it be sold as is, and you buy a place with your share of the proceeds? Or offer to buy your sister out of her share? Selling it and selling it now is probably the best plan since so many real estate markets are hot right now. Things may slow into the fall and winter, since they typically do. You would be the a-hole if you don't drop it. She's entitled to her share, irrespective of her financial position. I don't think you're greedy or wrong for asking, but the answer is sadly no. Could you ask to buy her out via payment plan? No, she doesn't want to sell it anyway. She wants to rent it to make profit. And that profit could benefit you because half would be yours. I mean, she says she'll split it. But do I actually think I'll ever actually see any of it? I wouldn't hold my breath. Massive update. I just want to thank everyone who has been kind and took the time to read through my comments, giving me advice. I just wanted to say I've read them. I had a big breakdown last night because I realized I was in way over my head with all this legal stuff. You guys were asking me to look up laws and probate, and just so much stuff I don't understand at all. I was trying and fiercely Googling. In the end, I called my ex. He's a lot more savvy with this kind of stuff, but I try not to intrude in his life. And had a bit of a cry while explaining everything that was going on with my dad's stuff, me being locked out, and just all the other drama with my sister. He said back when our son was born, my dad gave him a copy of his will, since that was also around time my dad started getting sick. Long story short, he found it this morning, and a condo was left to us. There should also be an RESP for my son, and it is signed and notarized by a lawyer. He said it will help me through the process, and that we can contact the lawyer together, and my ex will help explain things to me. Also, as mentioned in the comments, when we divorced, my dad told me he was updating his will, leaving the condo to me. I was not aware this was in reference to the fact that he had previously put my ex-husband in the will. So we both expect there to be a new will. However, I know my ex, and believe him when he says that if there isn't, he won't try to take anything. My spirits have been lifted, and I'm very hopeful this could all work out. I'm already daydreaming of having my son back home with me. Again, thank you so much to those who took the time to give advice. Without your encouragement, I wouldn't have had the guts to contact my ex. Just thank you. Update. Am I the a-hole for refusing to visit my mother in palliative care? Original story. My family is formed of cougars and sugar daddies, and I hate all of them. Except my grandpa, my mom's dad, who does not give a damn about anyone. He is the reason I am alive and well, and thriving. I'm currently 21, but this story goes on to the very back when I was 5, when my mom got married to a guy named Vladimir. Vlad, if you find this, then screw you. He is the most selfish person I've ever seen. After she and him got married, my mother started to leave me to my grandpa frequently. At first, it was for date nights. Then it has become after school. And then it became a full-time arrangement because that was what his little Vladdy wanted. Vlad is a sugar babe, by the way. My mom was 34. Vlad was 23 when they were married. And my mom's family is really rich. All of my mother's family, except Grandpa, adored him. And they hated my grandpa for pointing out the fact that my mom was neglecting me. When I was 9, my custody was granted to my grandpa. It was a painful process, and as a result, we have become by our own. Mom and Vladdy had their own lives after it, and I only saw them in family vacations. Last week, there was a call from Vladimir, saying that my mom has a terminal colon cancer, and she's currently in a palliative care unit. He said she wants to see you one last time before she leaves this world. They live in a city that is 12 hours by car. I'm not gonna take a plane in the circumstances of the world, so just said I don't have time for you, and hung up the phone. And then our extended family started to call us. I wouldn't bother with their opinions, but my closest friends who know all of this said I might have been very cruel, and that she deserved a chance for closure, so I came here. Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not Dayhal. Sounds like there was a decade where she had the ability to make amends and chose not to. She lived her life that way. She can die that way. Your lifestyle determines your death style. Not Dayhal. You don't owe her anything. She didn't act as a parent to you. Your grandpa did. Whether you want to give her closure or not, that's up to you. But your mom isn't doing this for you. She's doing it for herself. Yep, any closure is for Opie, not the mom. She lost her chance at it with persistent neglect. Not Dayhal. You might have been cruel, but so what? She was cruel to you. She can reap what she sowed. Would be excessively kind to visit? Yes, but you don't owe her anything. Only visit her if it will help you. If you want / need / are interested in that closure, then go for it. Otherwise, you live your best life. And please know her behaviors were always about who she is, not about who you are. You deserved better. Not Dayhal. She's your mother through biology, but she stopped being your parents when she let your grandpa raise you. You owe her nothing. She wants you to visit so she can feel better about how badly she treated you. Do not give that to her. And now for the update. So, after all of your opinions and suggestions, I decided to give a Zoom call and it was enlightening. I forgave someone, but it wasn't my mom. It was Vladimir. I will never ever forgive my mom, but we had some kind of closure that I will tell after what happened with Vladimir. When my custody case was happening, there were photos and proof materials that I didn't know where they came from. Turns out it was all Vladimir's stuff and help. He said he was worried about my mom and me being together, so he helped Grandpa discreetly, and my custody was transferred to my grandpa. All of the presents that I got in my birthday that was told from my mother was actually Vladimir. He also helped my grandpa on business and about his will. I feel so sorry for alienating him so much, but he said he wanted me to stay away from my mom, so he alienated himself too from the equation. We are planning to come together after the lockdown is over in my area. I also learned why he got married to my mom, and honestly, I do not blame him after I heard what my mom offered to him to be with her. He was desperate. And besides me, my mom was a good person when they were together and cared for him really well. My mom, though, she said she did not regret how she acted about me, and she said she knew she was wrong, but did not care. It was kind of shocking, but not surprising. She admitted that she should have left me to her dad when I was way younger and moved on with her life. And she wished me a happy and joyful life, and she said she wasn't asking for any forgiveness because she did not have any what-ifs about the process, and her only mistake was resisting in the custody case. It was a closure, not a good one, but it was. Our relatives were delighted when we talked, but me and Vladimir decided to cut contact with them after my mother's death like my grandfather. They can have their lives to themselves. My mom is still in palliative care, and the doctor responsible for her said to be prepared because it could happen at any moment. I decided I will attend her funeral, because after all, at the end, she admitted her mistakes, and even though she is a bad parent, she was honest and she earned my respect. So I am not gonna spare a last goodbye from her. That was all, and thank you for suggesting me a last talk even though I am not Dayhal. Not Dayhal. Wow, thanks for the update. It took an unexpected turn. I am glad you found the answers you seek for. In the end, it seems your mom just never intended to be a mom, and your grandfather was the right choice. I wish you and your grandfather a happy long life. Wow, Vlad wasn't the bloodsucker I thought he was. Desperation and money can make people act in ways that run counter to their individual morals. Seems like he wanted to do right, but in a way that didn't jeopardize himself. Dude was stuck. I'm glad things worked as well as could be expected, and that you had a silent helper on your side. All the best to you. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my mom I never intended to come back to the US after visiting my dad? My name is Daisy, and I am 19 female. My dad is Australian and my mom is American. I have dual citizenship. I have never really liked living with my mom. I have talked to my dad about moving to Australia for years. He told me that when I am 18, I could move in at any time and he would help me get everything worked out. And he kept his word. In 2019, I shipped a lot of my belongings, packed bags, took my needed paperwork, and left for the summer and never came back. I told my mom I was visiting longer and made excuses, but I never intended to go back. With everything that happened in December 2019, I told my mom I could not leave. I guess I didn't have the guts to explain almost 7 years of BS. Dad left when I was 12. She remarried 3 months later, and suddenly I had a stepbrother that she seemed to favor more. I just felt like I was a guest in their home. I finally had a talk with my mom, and she called me an a-hole for it. I explained to her that I didn't intend to go back. I had everything I wanted with me in Australia. She said, "What about paperwork?" I explained I took everything when I turned 18 and graduated high school. I said that I didn't intend to go to college when this was over, and I had applied to uni here in Australia. I was happy. Dad said he would support me for a few years, and I was not going to be keeping my US citizenship. She started crying and asked if I hated her. I asked her why she never showed me I was more important than her new marriage, that while she was my mom, I didn't really know how to forgive her for feeling alienated. I said I didn't want to talk for a while and hung up. Now I feel like an a-hole? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. For everyone saying you're the a-hole or everyone sucks here, they are wrong. Your mother chose to get married 3 months after divorcing your dad. That's not sane. She then basically picks her new husband and stepson over her own daughter. She chose to be entirely selfish and put her needs over being a good mom. She sounds like someone with narcissistic tendencies. I don't blame you for moving away. Also, you're an adult and can choose where you want to live. Your dad seems a lot more supportive. You didn't owe your mom any conversation because she clearly wouldn't have listened and would have sabotaged you leaving. To all the other posters, do you not see the abuse her mother put her through? Like, it was bad enough she felt she needed to escape. I know what it's like, and it's doubtful that some of these posters do. You owe your mother nothing at all. Thank you for understanding. It was hard to explain to people I knew, unless they had seen/been to my house. Most of the time, people thought my mom must be great because she didn't care where I went. But it was really lonely, and I felt like no one cared, outside of my dad and friend group. Not an a-hole. It sounds like you were in a difficult position and you felt really hurt by your mom. Ideally, you would have told her sooner, once you were over here in Australia. But I think you did your best given your age and how you were feeling. It's pretty telling that she didn't know how upset you were and didn't even notice that you shipped all your important stuff over here. Welcome to Australia, mate. Also pretty telling, she didn't say, "I'm so sorry for not noticing," but ask, "Do you hate me?" Classic manipulative/narcissistic tactic. Not an a-hole. Your mom didn't notice you'd moved all your stuff out of your room. Didn't notice your important papers were gone. Didn't seem to give a crap you'd scrubbed your existence from the house. You did the right thing for you. Good luck with your new life in Australia. She also asked about the paperwork right away. That implies that she would have tried to stop Opie from going. She clearly made the right decision. And as for her mother, actions have consequences. Too little too late. The last story is titled, "Am I the a-hole for wanting my parents to meet our newborn before my wife's mother?" I, male 27, just had an argument about this with my, female 24, wife. And 2 weeks ago, we had our first child, and she's a healthy baby girl. Some background. She is the first grandchild on both sides. I come from a large family with 5 siblings, and my wife grew up as an only child in a single-parent household. Now, my wife is very close to her mother, which is understandable, and me and mother-in-law have a great relationship as well. Our original plan was for mother-in-law to move in with us during the later stages of the pregnancy because my wife wanted her there for support, and I completely understood and had no issues with that. Now the issue is that mother-in-law lives abroad, and as you all know, COVID happened, and so mother-in-law's country went into lockdown and pretty much put a stop to all international travel. So our original plan didn't happen. This made my wife very sad. She had been looking forward to having her mother close. Again, completely understandable. Pregnancy is scary and no joke. My parents and 3 of my siblings, however, lived 2 houses down the road. And during the pandemic, we have been keeping them in our bubble. We have been having dinners and hangouts regularly. Now, here is our issue. We have been home for 1.5 weeks. We have not seen anyone, and again, I have not pushed us to see anyone. But I did ask my wife when she reckoned she was ready for my parents and siblings to meet their new niece and grandchild. She replied a bit annoyed that she wanted her mother to be the first one besides me to meet and hold her in real life, and that this was very important to her. Under normal circumstances, I would not object, but we don't know when they will be opening up for international travel. And for mother-in-law to be vaccinated and to fly over the Atlantic could potentially take months. I said it was really unfair to let my family wait for such a long time to meet their first grandchild, especially when they live so close. This did not sit well with her, and my wife and I had an argument. She said that since she gave birth and carried a pregnancy, she had a final say. Normally I would agree, but we don't even know when mother-in-law can come over, and I really want my parents to meet our daughter as well. They are eager. They have not pushed or asked in any way, but I can tell from talking to my mother that she can barely contain herself. My wife called me a massive a-hole, and that I refused to listen to her and could not possibly understand what women go through. I was just baffled and sad, and I feel I need outside perspective on this. Would I be an a-hole if I took our daughter to see my parents? Would I be an a-hole if I took our daughter to see my parents? Without your wife's permission? Absolutely, you're the a-hole. That would be a huge betrayal. Obviously, your child is likely to meet your parents before hers, but now is not the time to push this. You shouldn't be starting arguments and complaining about what's really unfair when your wife is only 10 days postpartum, coping with her first newborn baby, and missing her mother. You need to back off and be kind. I was also thinking, maybe wait for a bit longer than 1.5 weeks out of the hospital before going into this topic that is clearly very important to her. I put everyone's sucks here because of her comments and having the final say because she gave birth. Agreed. I don't get the amount of not a day-hole this post is getting. His wife gave birth less than a fortnight ago. She's probably dealing with a lot. Physically because of the birth and taking care of a newborn, but also mentally for the same reasons and also not having her mother, the one person, aside from Opie, she truly wanted present, near her during this whole thing. Opie, your parents will definitely meet your kids soon, but your wife needs kindness and support, not pressure over what other people want. If you take your kid without her permission, don't expect your wife to forgive you at all. That kind of betrayal breaks relationships. Put yourself in her place. Imagine being pregnant for the first time, wanting your mother there and not having her. Even worse, you don't even know when you'll see her, when she'll see your kid. You would probably feel awful and not be particularly rational. You would be a mess, and you would need time to process everything. What matters right now is that your wife and kid recover, particularly your wife, and that she has time to process everything. Like I said, your own desires and those of your family aren't more relevant than her mental well-being. It's been 10 days. Give her a break. In countries like mine, people don't get to see newborns until they are at least a month old for the sake of their immune system, even without a pandemic. Not the a-hole for feeling that way, but you would be the a-hole if you took your daughter to your parents behind your wife's back. Maybe try to include your mother-in-law in your life more. Video chats and maybe send her a lock of the baby's hair. That way, you can show your wife that your mother-in-law is important to you and to your baby. After that, you can revisit the meeting your family thing. Your wife is maybe being a little unreasonable, but actively doing something to upset her would be an a-hole move. She's still your wife. Best of luck to you. I think this is a lovely line of thought. Find some ways for mother-in-law to be included in special moments, even though it's just not realistic for her to be there in person right now. Everyone sucks here. Without the safety of the child issue at stake, she is an a-hole for disallowing family to see the baby for an open-ended period. Days for her mother to be first? Fine. Weeks? Possibly still okay. Months? Possibly forever? A-hole behavior. But you would be an a-hole for taking your daughter away without her consent. You may think your reasons are better, but at best you are asking to do the same thing she is doing. Make a large, irrevocable decision for her and without her say. Just as she doesn't get unilateral final say, you do not either. Work it out together, or expect that the loser in this situation, whether it is you or your wife, to carry possibly relationship-ending resentment ever after. Not a-hole. She can't hold your kid hostage from family for months hoping travel will be allowed. Also, it's your kid too. But there could be something deeper than just that. Does she think your family isn't being safe?